I'm Paul Moffat.
I'm Jan Moffat.
And this is Clockworks, a Legion podcast. And this week we're not talking about anything that has to do with Legion.
Remember when you used to pun at these parts?
My kingdom for a pun.
No.
The thing we're talking about this week is Moonrise Kingdom. The film by Wes Anderson from 2000 whatever it was. We're not looking it up.
We're not looking it up?
No looking anything up.
I'm looking it up.
Don't look it up.
I'm looking it up.
Before we go into Moonrise Kingdom...
2012.
Don't look it up, I said.
I have to look it up.
Before we go into Moonrise Kingdom, what does Moonrise Kingdom have to do with Legion? Why are we talking about Moonrise Kingdom on a
exactly
Legion
what
podcast?
I'm asking myself. Literally exactly what I'm asking myself.
Well, cast your mind back.
Way back?
Maybe I'll add a thing, except that I probably won't. Let's imagine. Let's do it ourselves. To our very first episode of Clockworks, where we talked about things that Legion reminded us of. That was based on having seen the
4 episodes.
4 episodes,
yeah.
The first 4 episodes. And one of the things we said was Wes Anderson. We thought that it reminded us of Wes Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about Moonrise Kingdom because we rewatched Moonrise Kingdom, and we'll talk about Moonrise Kingdom as kind of a representative Wes Anderson movie. Before we get more into that, why did we watch Moonrise Kingdom as our representative Wes Anderson movie?
Because it's good.
Yeah.
Basically, I had seen it only the once, and when we saw it, it was quite late at night. I enjoyed it, but I was very tired. I didn't really remember much about it. And so I did want to see it again. And I knew that it was one of the good ones. Most of his are good. I
don't know that there are any that I would call one of the bad ones. Yeah. You haven't seen Rushmore, right?
I've never seen Rushmore.
We should have watched Rushmore.
It's true. I've seen Royal Tenenbaums, Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou. What's the other one? The Hotel, Grand Budapest Hotel.
And Fantastic Mr. Fox.
I'm not sure I've seen Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Have you not?
I can't remember if we watched it with the kids. We should watch it for our other podcast.
We should. Our other podcast, in case you're unaware, is called Way Too Seriously, and it is a critical analysis of kids' movies. So, we're not claiming that Moonrise Kingdom is the Legioniest of Wes Anderson movies.
Nope. Definitely not.
What do you think is the Legioniest of Wes Anderson movies?
Possibly Royal Tenenbaums or Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou.
Yeah, I kind of think the Life Aquatic is. But there are things even in Moonrise Kingdom to connect. So I want to take a moment before we get into Moonrise Kingdom to talk about why did Legion remind us of Wes Anderson? What is there Wes Anderson-y about Legion?
I think it's the romance. It's the music and the romance aspect of it that is very when David says, in the first episode, David says, "Do you want to be my girlfriend?" In such a very Wes Anderson-y way. It's very deadpan.
Yep.
And there's a lot of moments in Legion that are like that are that kind of emotionless, very straight, but it has a bit of comedy because it's so straight.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like the first episode, Happy Jack, we called it, of Legion is the one that reminds me most of Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
And continues to. But there are other things, like the aesthetic of Clockworks with the jumpsuits is very Royal Tenenbaums.
Yes, exactly.
And then the general surrealness. Sometimes in Legion, the surrealness is really malevolent in a way that it isn't ever in a Wes Anderson movie. Mm-hmm. But sometimes it's comic, especially in the first episode. The sudden dance number in the first episode is a moment of this fever dream surrealness that you could plop that into a Wes Anderson movie and not miss a beat.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, so there's a lot of the use of color and the aesthetic, the surreal, the deadpan humor, and I think you named the best one. I totally agree. Do you want to be my girlfriend? Sure, but you can't touch me. Okay.
Yeah.
Like, that could so easily be a scene in the Royal Tenenbaums or what have you.
Or Moonrise Kingdom.
So all of that reminded us of Wes Anderson and some things that are really appealing about Wes Anderson. Not just superficial things, but like some parts of why Wes Anderson movies are so appealing, I think, in general, but to us personally. One of the things I love about Wes Anderson is the surreal, the way that things are off-kilter, and he plays it always for comedy, and Noah Hawley plays it. In Fargo, he plays it for comedy, and in Legion, a little less.
Yeah.
But
there's also...
Sorry, you talk.
There's also the setting in time. A lot of Wes Anderson movies are set kind of in the 60s, or at a, not current, but in the same way as Legion, not quite as dramatically as Legion, but they are not actually what that time was like.
Right.
They're a fictionalized version of 1964 or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. So when I said I think The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou was the most Legion-y Wes Anderson, that's for the surrealness and the way that the surreal in The Life Aquatic, I think, gets more threatening than it does in any other Wes Anderson movie, although it never gets very threatening.
Yeah.
But it gets, like, there's a darker edge to the surrealness in that than most Wes Anderson movies, I think. Mm-hmm. But when we're talking about the specifics of the first episode of Legion, I'm now tending to agree with you that the Royal Tenenbaum jumpsuit aesthetic is strong.
Yeah.
Is a strong connection in my mind, if not in Noah Hawley's. Who knows? Gonna get a bit actually into Moonrise Kingdom?
Yeah, I mean, what do you like about it? What do I like about it? Let's talk a little bit about it as a movie.
For disclaimer, we're not, from this point on, we're not going to make any effort, I think, to connect it to Legion.
Yeah.
All of this was just why we're talking about a Wes Anderson movie in Legion context. Now let's actually talk about this movie on its own terms.
Yeah.
Do we need to give a summary of the movie at all?
It's about two kids who escape from their home and summer camp and have a romance.
Yeah.
That's basically what happens.
Yeah, and
it's about life on an island, which I found really appealing. Mm-hmm. And one kid is there at summer camp like Boy Scouts, only they're called something else.
Khaki Scouts.
Khaki Scouts.
Which is the best.
Oh, that's the best. And he's been pen pals with a girl who lives on the island. He is an orphan, and so he runs away to meet her. They go off and have an adventure, and the various adults try and find them.
With mixed success.
Yeah, with mixed success, and the police officer at the end adopts him.
Yeah. So what do you think about Moonrise Kingdom? Do you like this movie?
It's really great. It's a really fun movie. It's really it's the weird, surreal, a very straight-faced humor. Mm-hmm. And it's also beautiful. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of just the shot compositions are... Wes Anderson likes a very a steady camera in the middle of the frame, and then the actors walk into it and walk out of it, and the camera stays in the exact same place. And it gives this, and it makes the camera do the same thing as the actors' words. And so the actors will say something completely "You can kiss me now." And it's this very monotone delivery, and it's the camera is doing the same thing. The camera is being this a monotone, but staying there in the one place. I think that's really excellent
way of explaining why the camera work fits so well with the acting. Mm-hmm. The camera is monotone, I think, is exactly accurate. And the other thing he really likes to do is have, when the camera does move, the camera will pan sideways and all the action will be happening in the same horizontal plane.
Yeah.
So it makes it seem like it's, a stage play or something, or a dollhouse, or they're all set pieces, but it'll be filmed on location. So like an outdoor, for example, the beginning of the camp when Edward Norton's character gets up and just walks sideways and he comes across all these different set pieces that are all on the same horizontal plane, and the camera stays completely level and just moves with him, and it seems like he's walking through, like, the world around him is completely stationary and he's just walking through it, and the camera reproduces that, and the way that the things he comes across reproduce that. And then later when they're doing the search party, the same thing happens. Like, the camera moves sideways to all the different people searching, but they're all in the exact same horizontal plane.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the very first scene has the house where the girl lives. Can't remember her name right now. Susie, of course. And it's going from room to room with nobody in any of those rooms at first. And the way that it cuts, like, right through the walls and right through the floor to the ceiling, it makes it feel like you're looking at a dollhouse. So much so that I almost thought it was a dollhouse until the kids, like, tumbled down the stairs, basically. Right. And I was like, oh, wow, this is actually a house. But I was so in the mode of, like, this looks like a dollhouse. I think there is a dollhouse there. In the shot, there's
Probably.
A little dollhouse there. There was. Okay. And not matching the exact same house, but just like a dollhouse. And I know that in Royal Tenenbaums, there's a dollhouse as well. You get the impression he likes dollhouses. And so do I. Well, I'm very fascinated by dollhouses and miniatures, so, like, to have a world that feels like that is really appealing to me personally.
And he really treats the actors and sets like they're a big dollhouse.
Yeah.
Like, and part of that is, as you said, the way the camera is so stationary. The part of it is, as I already said, the way people move from one horizontal plane to another, so everything is just there. Mm-hmm. And you get more of a sense in a Wes Anderson movie than in any other movie I know of a director just, like, playing with the characters in the world and moving them from one room to the other, and they're like...
They're almost like dioramas.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's totally right. Mm-hmm. You said it's beautiful. Just in terms of the beauty of the movie, I want to talk a bit about the costumes.
Yes. Yeah, tell me about the costumes. What do you like about them?
I love the costuming in this movie. It is so good. And what you said earlier about it is the 60s, this movie, I can't remember other Wes Anderson movies, whether you are given a date, but this movie is, there is a exact date that this movie is set. Yep. I don't remember when it is, but it's like...
It's 1964.
1964, but it's like January or...
It's the summer, so...
The summer. July 18th on 6 p.m. Like, we have an exact anchor in time, in contrast to Legion. But as you said, I don't know a ton about the aesthetics of the 60s, but I don't get the impression that anything about this is going for verisimilitude, and that anything about this is going for reproducing the way people actually looked in the 60s.
Yeah.
But it's all the way we remember.
It's the way we remember the 60s is always the thing.
And I want to talk first, if I'm going to talk about the costuming in this movie, I want to talk about Susie and her, like, her costume is so good. This, like, pink 60s dress.
Mm-hmm. Knee-high socks.
Knee-high socks and Sunday school shoes. And, like, it is so fantastic. I love it. Mm-hmm. I've said that 12 times, first of all. But for one thing, I really like kids dressed in grown-up clothes.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Which she is.
Yep.
Like, she's 13 or however old she is.
Mm-hmm.
And her clothes look very like what a 20-year-old in the 60s is wearing.
Especially her makeup, too. She has very, very heavy eyeliner.
And it all looks both very well done. She looks, like, great. Mm-hmm. But it also, there's this level of irony that, like, she looks like she's dressed up like an adult.
Yeah.
And I think on both those levels it works. If there was an adult dressed like that, it would also look great.
And it would also look like a little girl, too, because of the knee socks.
Exactly. And then, so I love her costuming throughout a lot. And then the khaki scouts.
Yep.
And the way that they also draw attention to the khaki scout costume, because Edward Norton keeps talking about people's uniforms and citing them for a uniform violation. And so the script is drawing attention to the way that the khaki scouts are dressed. And it's like a heightened version of a Cub Scout uniform.
It is,
it's all... And even that they're called khaki scouts is drawing attention to the khaki. And speaking of people who are dressed like the wrong age, like Edward Norton in his knickerbocker shorts.
Yeah.
And he also has like high socks and shorts and like is dressed like, he's dressed in short pants.
Yep.
And the like scarves that are all tied so immaculately on all the khaki scouts. Like, they just all look so good.
The Davy Crockett hat on the little boy.
Sam. Sam is wearing a coonskin cap, which is, for one thing, completes his look so well. And also, I wore a coonskin cap. It wasn't the 60s, and I wasn't a scout, but, I totally wore a coonskin cap, and it was the best. And I see him wearing a coonskin cap, and I'm like, yeah! I was 5 or something.
Yeah, he puts leaves in his hat to cool himself down, and she's like, "You're wearing a fur hat." And he just won't take it. He doesn't take it off for a very long time.
No, because it's so much more deadpan than that, right? Because he's like, "You can put leaves in your hat to cool your head," she says, "or you could not wear a fur hat." That's true. Neither one of them are being sarcastic about it.
No, not at all.
So good.
Yeah.
I'm like, so those are the two specific costumes I wanted to draw attention to, but also people wear monochromatic things. And the way that's, again, clothes, I didn't think of this when I started until you pointed out about Susie being dressed like, even if it was an adult, it would be a child, and a child is an adult. And think about Bruce Willis, the cop, and how his police uniform is this baby blue that makes him look childish.
Yeah, absolutely.
The adults are dressed like children, and the children are dressed like adults.
Isn't he in white?
He's in maybe baby. He's in a blue white.
Okay.
Baby blue, robin egg blue. I don't know, a light blue, so light it almost looks white. You're looking up a picture and trying to see if I'm right.
I think he's white, but
in the cover. In the picture that you're looking at, he's dressed in white, but I think that he is wearing baby blue.
Okay, I believe you.
In any case, he's wearing a kind of childish-looking police uniform.
Yes, I agree with that.
Whether it's blue or white. Mm. And the way that, keeping on costumes for just one more second, Susie's brothers are dressed in, really immaculate clothes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a beautiful house coat that's all very put together. Mm-hmm. This is again a Wes Anderson thing. Everyone's always put together.
Yeah, the costume design is just on point.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Where do you want to go next?
Well, the story.
Yeah.
What appeals to you about this story?
I find, despite the very flat affect of a Wes Anderson movie, I actually find this to be a very sweet love story. Mm-hmm. And it's played for comedy and it's played for absurdity because they're children who they're children on the verge of adulthood and they're kind of playing
they're
at being adults.
They're on the verge of teenagerhood.
Yeah, you're right. They're not on the verge of adulthood. They're on the verge of teenagerhood. They're kind of playing at adulthood throughout and it's funny. Mm-hmm. But there's also a real sweet innocence to their romance. Mm-hmm. And the way that they, everything about it, from the way that they immediately, I hate usually love at first sight, but I like it in this for some reason.
What bird are you?
I'm a crow. So flat. And the way they bond, like we see it's played as love at first sight, but it also through backstory is played as like them getting to know each other. And there's, in I think best Wes Anderson style, there's this huge emotional depth beneath the flat affect. So like Susie, for example, is always flat in her performance, except in flashbacks where she's like goes berserk, or like cut scenes when like, oh, I guess I do go berserk.
Yeah.
But like we don't see her, losing her temper. We don't see her anything.
Yeah. We don't see the stabbing with the scissors that happens.
But we're told, and it's a weird example of where told is better than shown. We're told that she has some kind of emotional trauma. She's a very troubled child. She has a book that she carries with her that she found on her parents' bookcase, coping with a very troubled child.
Yeah.
And there's a real pathos to her being like very distraught and very upset and very emotionally fragile. And him also, like he's an orphan. We see him be very flat in the affect, but we get told in a, I think, really moving way about like he is an orphan and his foster family kicks him out because he's been like setting fires in his sleep.
Yeah.
And these two frankly disturbed children find each other, understand each other like no one else does. We get all that. Like he sells all of that without them actually doing anything.
Yeah. And that the adults in their lives, aside from maybe the foster parents, they do care, they just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And it wasn't on your form that you're an orphan. Like, we would have done something if we had known. We just didn't know.
Yeah.
And Susie's parents just they just don't know what to do. They want to help her. But they don't know what to do with her. And that's very, there's a lot beneath the surface there that you can read into it. And you can read all this, this sadness of Sam and his loss and his, he's trying to be an adult because he doesn't know, because he can't be a kid anymore.
Yeah. I mean, this is a movie about childhood and adulthood.
Yeah.
And that adds to the, they go to this place and they rename, it's like Tidal Bay 45 or something, and they rename it Moonrise Kingdom, which is where the title of the movie comes from. I don't think they ever actually rename it on screen. They just say, let's rename it, and the movie is called Moonrise Kingdom, and you're like, well, that must be what they renamed it.
Yeah, I didn't even catch that. But I guess that
and
makes
she
a lot of
reads
sense.
These fantasy books to them, aloud to him, and later to the whole Cub Scout troop, and it's like...
Khaki Scout
troop. And symbolically, they're both running away from their trauma into a fantasy world with each other where they can...
Yeah.
Where they don't have to cope with their sadness, and there's a real sadness, and it's genuinely moving.
Yeah.
For all the comedy and the flat affect and I find it the most moving Wes Anderson movie.
This is what I was going to say, is I think the reason I like this one best of all his movies is and maybe I could rewatch and find things in the other ones, but I think it's the most hopeful, the most sweet, the happiest in the end, I think. I think it mostly has a happy ending for everyone. And I think that always happy endings appeal to me. And so that's why I like this the best of all the Wes Andersons I've seen.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a bit about the characters? Because we
talked a lot about Susie and Sam.
Yeah. Well, I like what you said a second ago about how everyone's in this movie is trying to do their best, is trying to help, but they just don't know how.
Yeah.
And I feel like, again, to compare it to other Wes Anderson movies, a lot of Wes Anderson movies have kind of crappy people. he likes precocious children and disaffected adults.
Yeah.
And the disaffected adults are, like, often sad beneath the humor. Mm-hmm. I feel like this is one movie where all the characters are actually quite likable beneath their sadness.
Yeah.
He always, I think, wants you to like them despite their sadness, but sometimes he lands more on the pathetic, and sometimes he lands more on the, like, just, you're not a good person.
Yeah.
In the Royal Tenenbaums, I find few of the Royal Tenenbaums very likable as characters.
Absolutely.
Few of the Tenenbaums in that movie likable. Yep. And that's a strike against it in terms of the sweetness and likability. But all the adults in this movie are likable, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Especially by the end of the movie.
I really like Edward Norton. I really like this.
Yeah, so talk about Edward Norton.
I mean, he's so earnest and genuine, and he cares so much about these kids, and he cares so much about, like, you know, making them good scouts and making them good people and doing everything he can to just, like, he's a good guy. Yeah. And he's kind of sad and pathetic, and he's like, he has this whole line about your math teacher, and he's like, and he changes his mind halfway through the sentence that, like, no, I'm a khaki scout leader and also a math teacher. Yeah, it's one of the funniest lines in the movie, but also has so much pathos for the character that, like, what's your real job? Yeah. I'm a math teacher. Wait, I take it back. I'm a scout leader. I'm a khaki scout leader. Yeah. Math teacher on the side. Earnestness is so the word. Like, he is the most earnest character I've maybe ever seen on film. And he loses, and he's, like, kind of incompetent because he doesn't know that Sam is an orphan, and then he loses his entire troop. Yes. And the other leader strips him of command. Right before then, he saves his, like, he gets redeemed. He gets to save the other leader's life from the just a hilarious series of unfortunate events that happen in this. Right. And, like, that's why I like it. It's like, he is pathetic and he's kind of stripped down that, like, oh, you did things wrong and he messed up and everything. And then he redeems. He gets redemption. He has the same character arc as Spider-Man in The Amazing Spider-Man that we just watched. Spider-Man Homecoming is what we just watched. Sorry, that was the most irrelevant illusion. So irrelevant. We watched it last night. Totally. And I love Edward Norton's performance in this. Is so good. Yep. He hits the sweet spot between, like, deadpan humor and, like, real vulnerable earnestness, which is so important for the character. Yeah. Who else? Do you want to talk about Bruce Willis's police officer? Yeah. I mean, he's also pathetic with a happy ending. Yeah. He's this bachelor on this island where the population of that island seems very small. It does. Very small indeed. And he is having an affair with Susie's mother. Yeah. And it seems like he's in love with her, and maybe they grew up together and he was in love with her before and then she got married to someone else. It does seem like that. But he gets to adopt Sam, or gets to, I guess, foster Sam in the end, and he notices that his life could have different meaning, and that his affair ends with Susie's mother, which is a good thing, I think. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. There's good. A line where Susie says to her mother, like, I know what you're doing with that dumb, sad policeman. And mother says, he's not dumb. Yeah. But I guess he is kind of sad. Yeah. And there's the way the movie lands is really that, like, him fostering Sam is his opportunity not to be sad anymore. Yeah, exactly. He was seeking happiness in an affair with a married woman who he could never really have. Yeah. And he finds happiness instead in caring for someone who needs his help. Yeah. And, like, that's great. Yeah, it really is. That's genuinely moving. Yeah. For, like, you know, he's a schlub of a guy, and they don't, in Wes Anderson style, they don't dig into any of that. It's just kind of there. But I love it. Yeah.
Do you want to talk about, I don't know, Susie's mother, played by...
Frances McDormand.
Played by Frances McDormand. I don't know her character's name at all. But
No,
do you want to talk about her?
I mean, both of her parents, they're lawyers, and so they talk to each other in lawyer speak, which is hilarious.
Yes.
And they're lying
Call each other counselor.
Call each other counselor. And they're lying in bed talking about their cases. And
in twin beds.
Yeah, in twin beds. Talking about their cases. And you can see that this is a marriage that used to have passion and doesn't anymore. That the two of them are this married couple who've clearly been married for a long time and kind of have lost the passion. They're in these separate beds. They're like talking only about work and stuff. And she's having an affair. But I think in the end, her ending the affair and they're like, it seems like there's hope for their relationship.
Yeah.
But also that he knew all along.
Yeah.
That, like, it wasn't a secret.
Yeah. He knew, and her daughter knew.
Yeah. And this is maybe what was breaking their family.
Yeah.
And you never really get any sense of the three boys.
No.
But, yeah.
I like her moment that turns her, in my mind, from a, flat comic, fairly unlikable character to a really likable character. Her two moments are in bed with him, and he in bed with Bill Murray's character, in bed next to twin beds next to Bill Murray's character, and he is complaining about his life not being what he wanted it to be or whatever. Mm-hmm. And she says, you have to do better. It has to be better than that, or something. Mm-hmm. I can't remember her words. But then later, when she breaks off the affair, I do remember her words, which is that's when she says to the cop, to Bruce Willis's character, I need to do better for everybody.
Yeah.
And he says, except me. And she says, except you.
Yeah.
And I that's again, it's played so flat, it's almost funny, but that's just so genuine and vulnerable.
Yeah, absolutely.
I need to do better for everybody, and that means herself, and it means her children, and it means her husband, and it means, I need to do better.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for a character who wants to do better.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely. There's a lot of side characters that are just funny.
Yep.
Like, Tilda Swinton as social services, who just, her name is social services. She never actually has a name. It's just you're talking to social services. Social services is here to do this. And
yeah, she refers to herself as social services.
Yeah, exactly. And her costuming and this little, all this blue and this little nurse's hat almost, but it's very severe. Oh, that was beautiful. I loved her character.
Yeah, she's fantastic in this.
What's his name? The cousin or whatever they have at the other khaki. I can't remember the actor's name.
Jason Schwartzman.
Jason Schwartzman. I always get him and Silverman confused from Fargo.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, anyway. He is just a funny side character as well with his...
Except he's great. He's more than just funny, though. He's another one who has this real pathos underneath. He's chewing, he's... I don't know if he's chewing gum. They're all chewing gum, and he makes it all spit it out. But he's walk and talk, no nonsense. I've got a plan, treating them in a comic way, talking to them as if they're adults, and his speech about you're gonna marry each other, it won't hold up in any legal or in any court of law in the state or city or the world, but the ritual itself does carry a certain moral weight within yourselves, and he does it so sincere and deadpan that it's hilarious. But there's a real earnestness to that character too, in the way that this is my fee, I get my fee, and then he gives his fee back to them to start them on a good life, and it's hilarious because they're 13 or 14 or whatever, but it's what we see of him is so not cynical at all.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And I really like him as a character a lot.
Yeah.
He's just trying to help. He's just trying to start those two kids off right.
Yeah, he's very immature in that way. That he thinks he can marry two 12-year-olds and have it
Yeah.
be anything, but yeah, it's still pretty good.
He's immature, but he's like all the characters in this movie. He's genuinely doing his best to do the right thing by the people he meets. And, like, it's kind of heartwarming.
Yeah, absolutely. So, in the end, this is a great movie, I think.
Yeah, I recommend it. I don't know what. I mean, I'm sure. Oh, we could talk about, actually, before we finish.
Yep.
Let's talk about the music a bit.
Yeah.
Because it's important in this movie.
Yeah, it does have very significant music. Wes Anderson has record players. That's a common thread throughout all of his movies, and that's also a thing in Legion, record players.
Definitely. And like Legion, the music in Wes Anderson movies, Wes Anderson, like Noah Hawley, is a creator for whom music is obviously very important.
Very important, yeah.
And, you can watch a movie and you can tell sometimes when the music is an afterthought and when it is the first thought.
Yep.
When it's like, I want to set a scene to The Young People's Guide to the Orchestra. What's the scene going to be? Here it is. And I feel like that's how this went. Like, Benjamin Britten's place in this movie feels to me like it came very early.
Yeah, I'd say
in the conception of the movie. And so much good to say, not least of which is, I just genuinely love Benjamin Britten. And so him showing up was just one of these things, like when something you love shows up and something else you love.
Yep, absolutely.
Like, I'm a big... My brother introduced me to Benjamin Britten, and he's the kind of person who has a favorite composer, and his favorite composer is Benjamin Britten. And so from childhood, I've had Benjamin Britten, like, played at me and explained to me and why he's so great. And so I just really, really like Benjamin Britten. Him showing up is great, and it's also just so perfect for the scene. And then later there's an opera also by Britten that they go to. Or an operetta or whatever of Noah's Ark. And then the other music choices are all good also, but the Benjamin Britten specifically I want to draw attention to, and I don't know if I have much more profound to say than just it's really good. It's really appropriate. Starting off with The Young Person's Guide to the Orchestra, because it's a young person's guide to something, is so fitting to this movie about young people trying to be adults. And it's like, here's how to listen to classical music.
Yep.
And then 2, that it's like this narrated introduction music going over the introduction to the characters and the set and the scene, and it's something that's happening. It's diegetic, which is to say it's music that the characters are really playing and listening to, but it also fits exactly with what the camera is showing us, and when the camera cuts away to other things, the music continues and is like, let me show you part, and then that The Young Person's Guide to the Orchestra is a theme and variations, and then what we see in the movie is a theme and variations and variations and variations on love and growing and adulthood, and we keep coming back to these same things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the whole music, but especially The Young Person's Guide to the Orchestra at the beginning is...
I think it also says something about Susie's family.
Yeah,
that they're not listening to rock music on their little record player. They're listening to The Young Person's Guide to the Orchestra. Like, this is the kind of family that they're in. This is what they would listen to, much like your family would listen to. That's the kind of family you grew up in.
I was just about to say, we need to get The Young Person's Guide to the Orchestra and play it for our children.
Is it on Spotify?
Probably, but that's interrupted by commercials. We need to get it on CD.
CD? What is this, 1994?
Right? We need to get an old-fashioned record player. The other thing, I mean, like, those record players, them going off on a stupid tangent, but, like, what our kids can't do anymore that I could do, because I had a toy record player, and that these kids and the characters can do, is pick a song for themselves, put it on, and listen to it as, like, their own thing. I'm bored, I'm going to do something, and the thing I'm going to do is listen to a song that I choose to listen to.
Yeah. Just
music now is so mediated through computers that, like, they can do it, but they have to, like, ask if they can use the computer and sign in, and Spotify's on shuffle, or, like...
Yeah.
There's just layers of difficulty that
You have to find the song on YouTube and listen to it that way. Yeah, there's a lot of... Yeah,
anyway,
I agree with that.
I like the music in this comes back to the ending. And it's really well chosen, and it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Moonrise Kingdom is a great movie. It's got some connection to Legion. Wes Anderson in general has a connection to Legion.
Yeah.
And yeah, this was a fun little experiment here. I didn't expect us to be able to talk so long about it, but we were. It's good.
Yeah, we were going to record, and Jan was dragging her feet and being like, I just don't know that this has anything at all to do with Legion. What are we even going to say about it?
But then I remembered the first season, the first episode. I mean, the first episode has a lot of moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So if you want to talk to us at all about Moonrise Kingdom or tell us what your favorite Wes Anderson movie is, you can contact us on Twitter, Clockworks Cast. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Reddit, we're on every social media you might ever want to. Should we join Mastodon? That's apparently the new
I've
flavor.
never heard of it, and we'll never join it.
Okay, there you
go. Look for our Mastodon account next week. Probably not. You can email us if you want to talk to something either longer or
slightly
more private than Twitter. We have an email, which is clockworkscast@gmail.com. And we'll get back to you if you email us there.
To support any of our podcasting efforts, patreon.com/clockworkscast, and that goes to both this podcast and our Way Too Seriously cast, and future podcasts that might come out there. So thanks for listening so much. I've been Jan Moffat.
I've been Paul Moffat. Goodbye.